in my head. Come here, love. Okay. Hello. It's literally my backbone. Everything. Every aspect.
How you doing?
Thank you, love. Oh, you got me too. Always come through.
It's cracked a little bit.
You ready? Good evening. Welcome to the North College Hill Charter Review Commission, our first meeting. I would like to start, actually, how would I like to start? I would like to start with everyone. Actually, I'm going to take a step back before we start the meeting. Yes, before we start the meeting, I would like to have a short prayer. Can we do that? Mm-hmm. Father God, I thank you. I thank you for your blessings. I thank you for this group of people who have come together today to work on our city's charter. Please give us the wisdom and the insight that we need to do what is best for our city. Give us the words that we need to say in the way that we need to say them to do what's in the best interest of our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen there.
Okay.
Your business on the go, just
Now I would like to call our meeting to order. The first thing I would like to do is for everyone just to introduce themselves. I'll start. My name is Erica Underwood. I am a member of North College Hill City Council and very also passionate about the charter and what we need to kind of do to try to kind of fix some or adjust some things that need to be adjusted in our charter.
My name is Elijah Kelsey. I am a resident of North College Hill for coming on 3 years now, and I'm excited about the opportunity to contribute to the charter amendment.
Hi, my name is Rayshana Hicks. I've been living in College Hill since 2017, and I am interested in learning more about the charter and being on board.
Kathy Carrollton, resident since 2018. I am very, very passionate about the charter, about legislation for our city, about how we can move forward. I'm also passionate to ensure that the citizens' voices are heard and that we really have a voice in all of this.
My name is Tracy Nichols. I am the mayor of the city of North College Hill. This will be my first charter review, so I'm excited to hear and to work with the team that we have established here to see what changes, if any, we will make.
And I'm Siobhan Hall. I've been a resident for over 15 years, losing track. Also been a member of North College Hill CIC for over 6 years.
Thank you, we are missing one member, but thank you, everyone. Welcome. The first thing that I would like to do is, because I know Wednesdays is not a good day for everyone, I'd like to kind of schedule our next meeting with everyone's calendar, if possible.
Miss Erica, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is our timeline in getting this done, and how many sessions do we plan to have to accomplish that?
So we have to get this, we have to have everything complete by June.
Okay.
And the number of meetings, it just depends on how many meetings we feel like we need to have. If we get everything done in one meeting, which I don't think we will, it'll be one meeting, but
Okay.
it's kind of up to us.
Okay.
Miss Erica, I don't call you Miss Erica, I call you Erica, Miss Underwood. Wednesdays work well. This time, actually, I was discussing my schedule en route here, and I know that council's on Mondays, Wednesdays is open, and Thursdays is motion NCH. So Wednesdays around this time, no later than 7 though, is my preferred timing.
Okay. Rashawn?
I'm just concerned
Just
if
pull it towards you.
Hi, yes. I'm just concerned about Wednesdays. Will it be every Wednesday? I do have Bible class on Wednesdays between 7 and 8, so that's my only concern.
Okay. Siobhan, what's good for you?
Tuesdays or Wednesdays are good for me.
Okay. Mayor?
Wednesdays work fine, but I'm pretty flexible, with the exception of Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
And
Those are bad days.
I'm sorry, when did you say your Bible study starts?
It's from 7 to 8.
Oh, okay. So even maybe if we did Wednesday earlier.
Early, yes.
Okay. How about you, Elijah?
I'm free Mondays through Fridays after 5 p.m.
Okay. So maybe we can meet earlier on Wednesdays?
I was
Is
gonna
that
say, Ms.
okay?
Underwood, is there a possibility that we could meet earlier, like 5:30?
5:30 works for me. Does that work for everyone else?
It does.
Yes.
I can make it work.
Yes.
Okay. So how long do we want to do? I think an hour is pretty lengthy for a meeting.
I think you have to keep
is.
fresh and not get.
Yes. Okay. So how often do you guys want to meet at first?
Well, as long as we can stay on target during those meetings, the idea, typically, we take it home, review it. Some of us have already reviewed it, had it before, and you come back. If there's a particular topic that someone wants to discuss, I say we read the entire charter, come back and say, these are the areas that we want to discuss and or change, because there may be plenty or a lot of spaces in there that we don't want to touch. Or
Okay.
it may just need a little critiquing. If we come back with what we want, what we know, and if anyone has anything tonight that they would like for us to look over until we meet again. I don't know, typically in the past, Ms. Underwood, at the last one, did you meet monthly or was it bi-weekly?
I can't remember. I'm not going to lie. I do not recall.
Okay.
So if we look at the charter, there are 15 sections, and each section, sometimes they have 8 or 9 different individualized topics. So that's a lot to cover. I prefer that we not skip over anything. I think that a thorough review is necessary. That's why we said yes to this. So my recommendation is that we not just take it home and review it and bring it back. My recommendation is that we collaborate together, go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I presume that Mr. Dieters, our law director, will be present in the future. If there are any legalities that need to be modified, those can be adjusted during his presence. And I just don't recommend we just take it home, look at it, because the person may not. I recommend that we go through it with a fine-tooth comb, every section.
So that would still take it home, read it, come back and review the document. So if we're gonna do words, when I say take it home, that means review the document, come back. As I stated, if there are particular areas that people may want to deal with, we deal with those. I was not saying that we skip the sections. You have to take it home, read it, digest it, bite it, do whatever you need to do to understand the document. And then, as I stated, come back and say, this is because something that may be important to you may not be important to them, and vice versa. So,
And I just want to piggyback off of that. I think also to that point, we want to be able to read it, so we're not here, we're more efficient when we're here. So we're not trying to read and ask and figure out what somebody's pointing out, so we'll be able to digest it and make your own notes at home, so you can take that time, so we can be ready to be able to know and hone in what we want to discuss as a group when we get here. Again, just to be more efficient.
So let me just clarify that statement. I presumed everyone had at least reviewed it prior to today's meeting. Has anyone not reviewed?
No, I have not.
You
No,
have
I have
not
not.
reviewed the
Not in
charter?
its entirety,
Got it,
no.
okay. So my assumption, what about you, Rayshawn?
I have not.
And you, Elijah? No, got it, okay. So, okay, understood. It would be good to get familiarized with it as much as you can, if you want. But there are certain topics in here that definitely I would like to have us review in collaboration together. I don't know, Mayor Nichols, if you were referencing that if I had, like, let's just say, look at Article 3, Section 301, look at that specifically. What I'm suggesting is that everyone look at every section together and determine if wording, if the logistics of it, if anything in this needs to be changed. This impacts 9,000 people of this city. So I don't want us just to kind of fly through it. The frequency of the meetings, I don't know if we established that or not.
That's where we started with all of this.
That's what I
So,
was saying, when you take it home, read it. So I don't know.
so
there was a
would you, can I
misinterpretation.
suggest that we just come, we'll start off every week maybe? And then, is that too much or, okay, you're nodding your head, that's too much. Yes?
Maybe bi-weekly?
I
Every
prefer
other week?
bi-weekly.
Okay, so we'll, yes?
Bi-weekly.
Okay. So we'll come every other week at from 5:30 to 6:30?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And just another thing, before we dive in, because I guess we're setting the baseline. I'm just curious, how often is the charter review? I just wanted to know, is it every 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, or is there a cadence?
It's every 5 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're supposed to do it every 5 years, and I kind of had it on my agenda and my committee, so moved to create the commission this year.
I just would like to point out, I'm not sure if everyone has the last charter review amendments. It looks like she has it there.
Yes.
You have it, it was in that copy down there. Do you have those, Ms.
The,
Hall? The amendments?
No, is that within?
It wasn't in the copy that was emailed to you.
Okay,
so-
no, I just need
Ms.
that
Underwood,
portion.
if you could pass down one of those.
Yes.
Please, thank you. I believe that's the last amendment that when you guys met.
Oh, the one, the first,
Yes.
that very first page, okay. Thank you very much for making that copy for us.
Also, Ms. Underwood, can you clarify, this charter that we are looking at to determine if modifications are needed, will this be on the ballot for the citizens to approve? And will that be on the November 2025 ballot?
Yeah, that is my plan, yes.
Okay. And so that means that it would have to be a part of the primaries by August?
We don't need to do a primary for the charter amendment. It does need to be on the ballot, though.
Okay. And can you also confirm, I think I heard you mention that we had 6 months or to June?
Yes,
So is that we have 6 months or is it we have until June?
6 months from the time that the commission was created would be June.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Ms. Underwood, do we have
Yes.
the date? Because we don't want to go past.
I do not, but I will make sure that I have that by our next meeting.
One more question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As we cover the basis, when we go through the charter review, what role will the mayor and the law director play in this review?
So according to the charter, the mayor is a member of the commission, but the law director is in an advisory role.
Advisory,
So
okay.
he just, if we have questions or if he has advice about something we're recommending, that's what his role is. But his role is not to be like a, kind of tell us what to do. It's advisory.
Okay. The only reason I asked that is that I don't know what his schedule is all the time, and we did set a precedence of 5:30 to 6:30, and his presence is needed. However, if he is unable to attend, how will we be able to cascade whatever we discuss during that meeting in his absence? Because I don't even know if he can do that schedule we set.
Well, so that is the reason why I was making sure that these meetings are recorded. Because they're recorded, he can watch them at his leisure. He can, because they're on the ICRC YouTube channel. So he can watch them, and if he can't come, he can send someone else from his firm or whatever it is that he needs to do to make sure that he's doing what he needs to do under our charter. Okay. So our next meeting, today is February 26th. And I just want to make sure we're all in agreement that our next meeting would be March 12th. Is that right?
Yes.
And then again on March 26th. Is that right? Okay. So I guess, I mean, no one's really had an opportunity, not everyone has had an opportunity to review the charter, but I had received some feedback about some sections that were in conflict. Was there anything that anybody wanted to point out? And I know Ms. Curitan suggested that we just go through the entire charter line by line. I think that's actually a good idea, but was there anything in particular that that is a conflict? I know Ms. Zorb had mentioned something to me at one point in time.
Madam Chair, Ms. Underwood,
Yes.
point of order.
Uh-huh.
One of the things at the first meeting, we have to do a chair, vice chair, and secretary.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right, let's do that. Okay, so we need to, I guess, elect a chair.
Can you give a description of each of these roles, please?
Sure. I guess we'll look in the charter and figure that out together.
The charter does not.
Yeah, it doesn't state.
It doesn't? Okay.
So let's see.
The chair would preside over the meetings, take attendance, and kind of maintain order.
Well, Ms. Underwood, you sit on council. I think that I would recommend you, maybe, if no one else is interested.
Is anyone else interested?
I think you would be great.
Okay. Okay. I always like to give everyone
Are you
else
interested?
I am, but I
okay.
do like to give other people an opportunity if that's what they want. So, okay, is everyone okay with me being the chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What about vice chair?
Again, a description for vice chair and then also for secretary, please. Are we just saying that
I would
they keep
imagine
it?
that the vice chair would be, in the event that the chair is not present, the vice chair obviously would run the meeting, maintain order, and, just collaborate with the chair just to make sure that we kind of stay on task.
I'll volunteer to be vice chair if no one else speaks up. We have work to do, so if anyone else is interested, feel free. If not,
I'm okay with that. Is everybody else okay with that?
Okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The secretary would be someone who just kind of takes notes, keeps track of what we're supposed to do, and maybe could send an email, not for us all to respond to. It's very important that we not reply to all when we email each other.
why is that? We're not city officials. We're not law.
It's still public record. So
It
we
is?
can't, yes, and this is a public meeting. So whenever you reply to all, it's a meeting for purposes of the public records law.
Got it.
So,
Not that I contest that, but I will definitely research that. And the research that I have read so far, again, not that I contest that, but because we are not sworn in individuals, we are not upheld to that standard. So for example, let's just say it's May and we need to really hunker down and get this done. Not again that I contest it, but I'm just saying I will.
there's a training on the website for the attorney, is it the Attorney General's website? That's where I got that
Okay.
information.
Can you send me the link or us the link so we can have
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I will do that. Let me write that down as well.
Secretary should write that down.
that? Who's the secretary?
We haven't figured out the secretary yet.
Also, I would like to make mention that there could be anything that could happen in this building, whomever that secretary is, if we establish a centralized method of communication, if there are any changes, let's just say something happens. We don't know what tomorrow holds. So whomever that is, they would maybe send out a text or an email in a sufficient time frame so we'll know of any changes for the
Okay.
meeting.
Is anyone interested in being the secretary?
I'm interested.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. All right, so.
I know, I was like, I've done enough for CIC. I was like, I do not, that's the only one I was like.
Okay, so we'll have Elijah Kelsey will be our secretary. Okay. so-
Kelsey?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'll make sure that, or maybe you can make sure that you have everyone's at least phone number and email before tonight's over.
Okay. And Mayor Nichols is there, so we've got our chair, vice chair, secretary. Is there anything else that we need to do before?
That's it.
No other preliminary matters?
No.
Okay. So, just before we all leave, just make sure that Elijah has your preferred email address and your preferred phone number. Okay.
So, Ms. Underwood, on this documentation, it says the charter amendments. Is it that in 2020, actually 2020, there were only 2 recommendations?
Yes.
Is that correct? How far back can we go? I know that we've been a charter city for a while. I'm curious to know what happened 4 years prior or 5 years prior. What have been the changes over the years? Maybe something was removed that should be implemented, or maybe something was added that we can now see that needs to be redacted or pulled back. So do we have any documentation for the prior amendments for the charter?
I'm sure that we do, and I will figure that out. I do know that there have been some changes to the charter through the years that I'm aware of, but as far as I know, we can look at the where our ordinances are published, and we should be able to determine, looking at that, what the last changes were, but I'm sure that there's another way as well. I'll figure that out.
Also, one more note of reference. I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, but do we actually have a working document outside of what is on the city's website? So, for example, I'm thinking that, and Elijah, as the secretary, what would be easiest for you? This is a super lengthy document. How do you foresee yourself going in and adding any changes or any redactions?
I think electronically would be best, using something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs.
So do we have this document, the entire charter, made available?
I can work on that as well.
Okay.
Which one do we prefer, Google Docs or Microsoft Word?
Maybe one that we can all see the changes if they're made. I know that we can all collaborate in Google Docs. What's easiest for everyone?
Let's see, what is he most comfortable with? What are you like to do?
Google Docs is my
Okay.
preference.
Okay, let's go with what you prefer.
Okay. That is what we'll do.
So as we go through, Elijah, are you comfortable, like, let's just say we started with Article 1, Section 1.01, name and boundaries. If there are any changes in that, you would, prior to the next meeting, have those changes made, or what do you foresee your schedule and your timing?
Yeah, for our next working session, I'll bring a device and I can make changes as we discuss them and agree to them. If we get to anything specific today, then I'll make notes on my paper and distribute a document accordingly.
Speaking of notes, you should also take minutes. Are you comfortable with doing that?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
So just to clarify, on your Google Docs, will we all be able to have access to the changes as they occur?
Yes, if you
Okay.
provide me with a
The email.
Google account.
Yeah. Okay,
yes,
cool.
I'll share it with you.
Does that work for everyone else? So Elijah will go in and then make any changes if necessary, and then we can all see them prior to that meeting, whereas we would not have to spend 15 or 20 minutes making those changes. We'll be ready to hit the ground running the next section. Is that cool with everyone? Yes? Okay.
Does that television work as far as like connecting, a laptop
does.
to it?
It does.
Okay, okay. Might be an option we might want to do.
What do you see with that? Like displaying the charter or displaying changes, or what do you
You can
see?
do changes or just whatever's on his computer and, whichever way.
it's like-
Yep.
Yeah, we can project it on there and use it as a reference for everybody, so we're all looking at the same thing. I like that
Sounds
idea.
good to me.
And Mr. Kelsey, we would only have view only, correct?
Good point.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so, I think that we've gotten off to a good start. Is there any other preliminary matters that anyone can think of that we need to address?
For the agenda for the next meeting, or for all future meetings, what do we think of the idea of bringing, if we have any proposed changes or areas that we want to highlight first before going line by line, just to prioritize the things that are most important to everybody? Does it make sense to bring those and communicate those ahead of time?
Definitely.
I think so. I think
agree.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want us to send that to you ahead of time so that we
Yeah,
have a
if you s-
list of?
Yeah, if you send
Okay.
them ahead of time to me, I'll put them in a document for us to start the meeting that way.
Okay.
All right, so Ms. Underwood, are we ready to jump in?
Sure,
You want to kick us off?
absolutely.
You mentioned that you had some recommendations. If you want to maybe go through those and then.
So I really would like for everyone to kind of read the whole thing, though, just to be familiar with it. But I know that there are some kind of conflicts in this document, some things that are conflicts. And then one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was when there are vacancies on council. Like in recent years, we've had a number of vacancies, and there were times when we found it very difficult to find people who were interested in actually serving on council. I think that we need to flesh that out more, about, who would be eligible and how we would do that.
So for the party who made the recommendation to you, and she's referencing Article 3, in case anyone didn't know, do you want to look at the number, the election in terms of office, qualifications, or what specifically, which section would you like to look at first?
So we're talking about section 3.07.
Okay.
And again, I don't really know what the right answer is. I think that's just something we have to kind of flesh out, or something I would like for us to flesh out amongst ourselves. And it may be, again, if everyone hasn't had an opportunity to kind of read it and digest it, that may be something that people will need time to do. But, I know that has been a problem in our recent past with, resignations for one reason or another. Just how we fill those seats, or how we,
Are you referring to if that particular member does not have a committee?
what do you mean?
So when you get your petition, you take your petition down, you can pick
Oh, right,
people on your committee.
exactly.
So one of the things, the people on that committee have to be residents. So if you fall into a situation where they're not, then from my understanding, it kicks back to council if it's not enough or if the commission falls through. So I'm just curious if you're referring to if they do not have a committee.
Maybe. I think it's one of those things that we need to kind of flesh out.
So let's give it real-time scenarios for those who may not understand. So over the past 12 months, is that about right? We've had 3 council members to resign from council. In that process, 2 were able to come on council. Actually, I'll go back and say it this way. One person had to go through like a rigorous interview process. One person. The other person, we're talking about North College Hill Council, another person just stood up and said, hey, I'm interested, and then at that moment, council voted him in. The person who had to go through the rigorous process, they were filling the seat of a person who had a committee. So the committee went through, they had a long, like, hey, you're here for the job, let's get to work. Whereas another party did not have that. So what I think Ms. Underwood is stating is that there needs to be a clear defined requirement if there is not a committee and a clear defined requirement where there is a committee. I do agree we need to go through this thoroughly. We've experienced a lot in this city, and I think part of it is because this is not clear. I recommend that we look at this. This is a very hefty part of the charter, but I think that we need to look at it, determine what do we want to see in the event. I'm going to use you, Ms. Underwood, because you do serve on council. In the event Ms. Underwood is unable to serve on council, and if Ms. Underwood has a committee, this is what we do. If Ms. Underwood does not have a committee, this is what we do. I don't think it should just be, hey, Joe Blow sitting in the audience, raises his hand, and now he's on council. We want to avoid that. So this is something that we just want to kind of really look at because they represent everything for the city.
In some instances, it falls back down to the Board of Elections, how it's set up there. So if you don't have a committee, we reach out to the Board of Elections and say, hey, this is our situation, instruct us on how to do it. And I think, and probably in one of those situations, that was the case because of how it happened when the person left, and then there's no committee, so this is what we're left with. So what do we do? So then it falls to their guidelines.
And in that same vein, so this is a year, I don't know if you all know, I'm speaking as if you don't know. This is a year for an election, right? So there are many seats that are up. So for example, in the scenario that I use, it wasn't the council member who resigned who didn't have a committee. It was like 2 council members back. So it had been an ongoing matter that just had not been rectified and cleared up. So I think we're setting the precedent for those who are coming on council starting January 1 of 2026, and then making it setting the precedence of things going forward. What do we want that to look like? Of course, you have to be a resident of the city. Of course, you should have, in my opinion, a good name, right? You represent what I believe is important. And I think also it's important we realize that the citizens at the end of the day, I am a citizen, everyone here is a citizen. We want to make sure that these people don't necessarily agree with everything that we say, because then it doesn't make sense, but at least they stand up when we need them to have a voice when it comes to legislation in the city. That's really, really important.
Yeah, and again, and one of my concerns is that in the event, because we do have an election this year, you're right. So what happens if, it used to be years ago that when there were council elections, there would be 10 people who would pull petitions for 4 seats. Mm-hmm. And so we had like a robust campaign, debates, elections, even though we were a small community. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was, it kept us on our toes. But now what I'm finding is that we don't have that. We barely have just the correct number of people pulling petitions to run. And in the event that we don't have anyone pull petitions, I want the charter to address that as well.
Okay, that was my next question on, far as we said we're going to read this, digest it a little bit, but what would be helpful for me to, like you said, to talk about what has been some challenges so we can keep that in our mind. So it sounds like, one, a clear process, which is related to committees. Number two, when there's a lack of available interested parties.
Absolutely.
So besides those two, are there any other kind of generalizing scope challenges that you guys have seen with vacancies that we be helpful to have that background that we can know as we're digesting this?
Just, kind of overall, I think that the vacancies issue, just the, how we address that. If we have something in our charter about it, I think that, it'll, for future, we can kind of set the guidelines. And we do have term limits. However, if no one is interested and, and there are vacancies, do we, make an exception for the term limit for someone who is interested? I think, that's something we need to probably take into consideration.
And also, as we review the section for vacancies, it's also important that we review the process for removals, right?
Yes.
As it currently states is that council pretty much can keep their own rules amongst themselves. There really is not necessarily a process. In the event something happens and, God forbid, a council member has to be removed, this should be a clear, defined process. As it currently states, it says simply council. There is not really a precedent set. So I would love for us to dig into that section. Going back to your point, Ms. Underwood, I hope this year is different. I hope this year of 2025, for those who will be elected in 2026 or starting in 2026, I hope that we do have a lot of candidates. And if you're not familiar, this is just a plug. You just need some signatures of those who, I think I don't know how many, but go to the Board of Elections, because what we're ironing out impacts how our city will move forward. So beyond the vacancies, it's also that we have a statement on the removals, and I think it also may need to be a clause in there, because there could be a situation that comes up that we are not thinking of. We are only having limited time to discuss this. So I think it's important that we also have a clause that in the event something were to happen and we didn't cover it, what parameters are in place? Is it up to the mayor? Is it up to the law director? Is it up to the city manager? Is it up to council? Who would have that final say-so to say, you know what, this is it, we're done?
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you saying besides their body, you're looking for another particular person of authority to say goodbye? Because right now
No.
it's just their body.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, so I don't even think anyone has ever had to be removed from council in North College Hill history. Maybe? I don't recall. If there,
I don't think it occurred, but
Okay.
we were close.
we were close, right? So I'm thinking that ideally, if we get close to that, we would want, so I think we're kind of jumping into another section 5, but I'm thinking that there needs to be a standard and a precedent set. Ideally, it would be the president of council who would have a conversation with someone to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jane or John Doe, we need to have a conversation. If this continues, X, Y, and Z needs to occur. I don't think we have that. I could be wrong. I don't think we have that in place right now. So if we're talking about the section regarding vacancies and removals for Section 3, I think we should also look at Section 5 that speaks on the duties of the president of council. I think those kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
So to answer your question, Mayor Nichols, it would ultimately, in my opinion, be the person who is an elected official as president of council to have that final stamp of approval to say.
That's what I was saying. Is it one person of authority that you're looking for that? Just so I can better understand. Because when you said, is it the mayor, is it such and so, which is why I asked, are you looking for or would like to see one person in authority outside? Because as it states now, council makes that decision about other council members.
Right. I think it would be good, as I've seen in other cities and municipalities, that that decision, again, we can determine what's best for North College Hill. The president of council, in that section, first of all, he or she is an elected member of council. They don't have a vote. However, their duty and job is to keep council in order and to make sure there is decorum at every meeting. So I think it would be helpful if we not just say, hey, you're president of council, but really say, hey, these are your duties. This is what's required, and this is what is expected in the event something needs to happen with the constituents, requesting by the constituents and also per council members. Also, I just want to make sure in that same process, we realize that the president of council is an elected role outside of being on council. That's as you just run for president of council.
Right. So I agree that we probably need to definitely flesh that out. I wouldn't want to give just the president of council that power by themselves, but I would want it to be some combination of council, like a certain number of council members would need to be to remove another or expel a member. And I think it's fleshed out a little more in the rules, but if I'm not mistaken. But I agree, we need to figure that out. The other thing that I would like everybody to just kind of consider as you're reviewing this document, I think that at least one time a month, all of the major people in the city should come to one council meeting. So that would be the mayor, the finance manager, the chief of police, the fire chief, the public works director. At least one meeting a month, everyone should be present so that if any issue needs to be addressed, we can address that.
I most certainly agree. In fact, that is a precedent in some of our neighboring cities. So I think that that's aside from them coming to the committee meetings. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I agree with that as well. And again, that was police, fire, public works, finance.
Yep. City administrator, mayor.
And recreation.
Recreation, yes. I also think that we need to really flesh out what the requirements for our law director.
If I can make a recommendation, and just again, I'm going to state this in a way or to not assume, I'm going to say it as if you don't know. I believe that everyone who works on administration, that being the mayor, the city administrator, and that's it. They live in the city of North College Hill. The law director does not. In fact, and I'm not sure, I looked through the charter and I didn't see it. There is no standard or precedent set that states this law director cannot serve multiple cities at the same time. To me, with your own private practice, that's a lot on your plate to really give us all that we need. So my recommendation is that, and this might be hard, right, to find a law director who actually lives here in North College Hill. It limits our pool. However, I think it would be helpful that we would make it a mandate that the law director only served our city. He or she could not serve multiple cities at the same time as working for our city. He or she may have their private practice, but he or she cannot serve multiple cities at the same time as serving North College Hill. To take it up a notch, we can say, hey, you want to serve our city? You need to live here as well with the mayor and with the city administrator. What do you all think about that?
I think it's very limiting.
It is, yeah.
And I'd rather go, I think, what is the route we're trying to get at is that we want them to be available for us and fill our needs. So if somebody might be able to serve multiple cities and still fill our needs, somebody might be able to serve just us and still not fill our needs. So to me, I feel like the bottom line is, what are the requirements of saying that you have to be here, you can't miss a maximum of X, Y, or Z meetings that you're required at, versus, so if they can juggle 5 cities and still meet our needs, I'm okay with that. Again, because somebody can have 1 city and still not meet our needs. That's the root, what we're trying to get at is, we want somebody who can be able to fulfill our needs and be here when we need them to be here.
So if we go back historically, I believe that, and anyone can correct me, the law director at one point for the city of North College Hill was also an elected role. However, at what particular time that was changed, I was looking to see if I could find the year. Do you recall, Mayor Nichols? I believe that at one particular time for the city of North College Hill, the law director served as an elected role. It was, thank you.
Was it 11, 12?
Yeah.
Was that the last?
So I would love for us to get back to that. Oh,
Yeah. It
okay.
was
7, 10, and 12. Great. So I'm not sure. I would love to go back and see why we decided to remove that requirement for he or she to be elected. My concern now is that the current situation is that the law director serves at the recommendation and disposal solely of the mayor.
No.
Oh,
Actually, no, it's not solely.
well,
up to
let
me.
me clarify that statement. The law director serves primarily at the discretion of the mayor.
No.
No? Okay. Can you clarify?
The law director works for 50 council, 50 mayor.
Got it. Okay. From what I see as a citizen, right? From what I see as a citizen, I don't see that 50-50. I see it more like 90-10 or 95-5, but that doesn't matter at this point. My concern would be that if we want to have a law director, so actually let me give a little bit more history. There has a lot, I don't know how much anyone knows watching or here, there has been a lot that has transpired over the few years in our city. In fact, I go off of facts. I try to. In 2017, our current law director received a vote of no confidence from council in 2017, but he's still here. So there has to be something that happened between 2017 and now that we just want to have someone who's for us, who will advocate for us, who will help us mitigate as many problematic lawsuits as possible, and really is at our disposal. We don't have to share him or her with another neighboring community. Partly, Siobhan, I think that we may have experienced some of the things that we did because he was being shared. So it's up to us how we would like to see that. I think that we do have some great lawyers in North College Hill. I'm not going to name drop, but we do. And I think that for our city, we need to have someone who is for us, who's going to advocate for us, who's not just going to let us go to litigation and just say, okay, you know, we'll pay these fees and fines, but who's going to say, no, I stand up for the city of North College Hill. I'm going to make sure at the end of the day, they're going to come out on the winning end. What do
There's
y'all think?
also the possibility of a full-time law director, but then you have that, what if they don't stay, right? So what we need to do and work on as well, the city does not like to enter into contract for employees. We may want to consider that as well, because if you get an elected official, that elected official would serve 2 to 4 years, whatever you so choose, if that's the route that we choose to take. If you start to look into contracts for employees with that law director, it would be the same as an election. So you're not bound. You're an attorney. I'm not. You're not bound to a contract, but there are things and stipulations that would provide that they could leave. But if you do the election, then, and not knowing why they went away from removing that position from being elected, I can't really speak to it.
I don't know. I think that that's one of the things that we should definitely flesh out because, you know, the way that it stands, you know, apparently from the citizen standpoint, it looks like the law director works for one side or another when the law director really works for everyone. However, the problem is that no one side or the other can get rid of the law director. There has to be an agreement or a collaboration. So I think that we just need to flesh that out, how that works. If as long as there's a process, we can do that. I think that it's I don't think it's necessarily that a person works for more than one city. I just think that it's just how committed the individual is to this city.
And then also, I just want to make sure that I understood, as it currently states, it says he or she should be appointed by the mayor and approved by a majority of the city council. I think that majority is 4, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And okay. And it also says the mayor and a majority of city council must also jointly approve the removal of the law director. I think that clause right there should be amended. I don't know how. I'm not a lawyer, but I think we should look and see if we ever need to get to that point. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we have a solid team. But in the event we need to get to that point, it should, again, be a clear, defined process, because you can have the council saying, yes, keep him, and we can have the mayor saying, no, it's time for him to go. There needs to be a clear, defined process to help preserve North College Hill.
I agree.
And I think that's what happened with the vote of no confidence. If I had to pinpoint and say, I think they voted, and I believe, can't speak for the sitting mayor at that time, but I think they did not want to release, so.
Okay. That's kind of, those were the sections that kind of jump out at me, that I'd like everybody to kind of think about.
If we can jump to section with the remaining time that we have. Section 6.
Okay.
It shouldn't serve as a surprise to anyone that in 2024, our city went through 3 city administrators. And I think over the past 2 years, we've had 4. So that's a lot. 4 city administrators who serve at the pleasure of the mayor in 2 years. That could cause a lot of problems. Along with that, I would also say that another section that I would like for us to tap into is the finance director. We've also had some transition and movement there. I think it would be helpful that council would also have a say-so, as they would with the law director, as they do with the mayor. I think it would be helpful. They would also have a voice regarding the city administrator. And it currently states that the city administrator shall be appointed by the mayor. I think that this should also be a role that should be an elected role. I just think that the people of this city deserve to have a voice in what's considered the CFO for the city. I think it's important that they know who this person is, who's running it with the mayor. And I also think that they should have insight and input into who the person is.
Can I ask, I just have a question. If anyone knows, do you know of any other cities where the city administrator is elected?
I'm not 100% sure. I think that I can provide some research for you. If we're going based off of what Coleraine or Mount Airy or what Mount Airy, City of Cincinnati, Springfield Township does, I think the concern, maybe the election, maybe is not necessary as a suggestion. I think, though, that the city manager or administrator, because if you look at the City of Cincinnati, in all essence, the mayor of the City of Cincinnati is not a strong mayor. He is the mayor, but he's not a strong mayor. Our charter states that the mayor of North College Hill is a strong mayor. So that hierarchy is mayor, then city administrator. City of Cincinnati, it's city manager, and then the mayor. Both parties collaborate. My concern is that citizens and council don't have any input in who the city manager is or administrator is. I think citizens should have input, insight, feedback. We've had 4 in 2-3 years.
I was under the impression that the city of Cincinnati was mayor, city administrator.
Yeah, you can research it, but the way that it works is that not every city. So we're ran by a charter. North College Hill, if we can focus on North College Hill. North College Hill states per our charter that we operate on a strong mayor. That means at the end of the day, the mayor is the one who has the final stamp of approval on many things. If you look around larger cities, look at Chicago, look at Atlanta, look at Miami, it's really the city administrator who actually partners heavily with the mayor, but they're the ones who really like drive things for the city. So back to my recommendation, it is that citizens and our council would have feedback in who that city administrator is, who ultimately is the CFO for the city.
I definitely think we need to talk about it, but what I also realize is that the city administrator is a member of the administration. They're not a voting member of council. Council controls the money and they kind of run the city. So we have to be mindful that the mayor and the city administrator have to be able to work together.
Right.
And I really think that that's what has been our problem in the past few years, because we just didn't have that. So I think we just need to flesh this out a little bit more, but I think we need to understand, because we do have term limits. Mayor Nichols is not always going to be the mayor. I want whomever the mayor is to have someone there sitting in the chair next to him or her that person trusts, and that, they can get things done, because that's kind of, I think that's been a part of our issue.
Also, I would say to that same aspect, can you clarify as it currently stands, so that, is it my understanding that every director, fire department, police department, law director, everything we mentioned before who you recommend needs to come to council meetings, they all flow up as it currently stands to the city administrator? Right. And then the city administrator reports directly to the mayor. I find that sometimes it might be difficult for citizens and our council members to get sufficient information because of that hierarchy. I think it would be helpful that if we're talking about dollars, if we're talking about infrastructure, if we're talking about something that impacts all of us in this room and then those watching, it would be helpful if there was more of a streamlined process to really get movement and momentum. If that means that everyone then would not report to the city administrator, but everyone would report to the mayor, or if everyone, I'm trying to understand why that is as it is. Why?
I think that's one of the reasons why we need the law director here. I think that there's some legal reason for that. Okay. I think that because we have a part-time mayor, that's why they report to the city administrator. But don't quote me on that. Mm-hmm. That's something we'll have to ask the law director. Okay, I do want to be mindful of everyone's time. It is 7:30. We've been here for an hour. I would like to thank everyone for being here this evening. I would just, as a soft reminder, make sure Elijah has your email address and your phone number, and it needs to be a Gmail address so he can share the Google Doc.
Actually, one more reference. Again, for the citizens here, I think that earlier in the year when council was experiencing a few things, you all established an email address. If citizens said, hey, in review of the charter, I recommend, can we establish that, if it's not tonight, by next meeting, that if there are citizens who are unable to attend and who would like to provide feedback, they can do so at a centralized email address that we all will have access to?
Yes, I will figure that out. Sure. And our next meeting will be March 12th at 5:30, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And if all minds are clear, I would like to adjourn this meeting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.